Welcome everybody to the 7th quality update of this academic year 2020-21. Headlines coming in. So as always, just looking at the top line data, we have certificated 249 qualifications to date, which is a great number. Total number of supported formal observations has actually increased by about 9 now, so that's gone up to 35. Total number of internally verified courses, so this is groups, cohorts, selected periods of start and end date courses, and that's 74. So as you can see, that's a massive amount of courses, up to the point where we're looking at nearly 2 a week. The average feedback score from the candidates has not changed, but that's because of the period that we're in at the minute. We're not really asking for that specific feedback at the second, but it is staying at a high 8.8. It's only 0.2 away from our target, but as always, we're going to strive for 10. So data, headline data coming in then, all of it's green on a RAG rating. We have improved, increased, developed numbers from previous report. So we've gone up by another 64 candidates since the last time this report came out, which was about 3-4 weeks ago now. We've maintained and ever so slightly increased our retention, achievement and attendance. And again, the greater the numbers now, the lesser percentage change that we have. So if we look at that visually, so the grey line now is against our target for year. Okay, the blue verticals are looking at against the number of enrolled candidates, and then the orange is the topical area. So in this one, it's retention. So our retention, as you can see, dipped ever so slightly when we thought we had a data anomaly going on, and then it's been on a plateau, if not a very ever so slightly increased, even though we had a steep rise in our numbers, which is really good. Again, if we look at the same for achievement, this one here, this is our base, this is our target in the grey, which is 90. So we're currently underneath. Again, we had a dip early on with the data, we're not quite sure, but this is not what we would class as timely data. So this is looking at everybody who is in an enrollment and then who has achieved of them. So as you can imagine, we have several people in this cohorts here who are still to achieve, and that would push that number up. And then finally, even more so data anomaly early on in the collection where we reviewed it. Okay, the baseline here 90 and the orange, and as you can see, we're hitting a steady plateau now of our attendance, which is fantastic. So even though we're seeing an increase in people coming in, we're able to maintain our attendance percentage. So championing then, so Mike, you get a shout out today, mate, has shown some great quality assessment and as of yet has not returned any work to him for action. So this is from Steve, who is our IQA and looks at our internal moderation. And then also looking at the transition to Google Classroom, tutors have been extremely helpful in guiding IVs through it. All right, a specific shout out to Balve. So this is been really helpful to Steve, to Jenna, to myself, and everybody else really, just supporting each other, which is great. But in particular, Balve, you've given up a bit more of your time. You've been really willing to help out, which is fantastic. Thank you very much. So continuing with our championing then, so we have passed our NLSV, which is absolutely fantastic. The only action that was asked there was the candidates were actually doing too much. So speaking and listening is part of our English functional skills. And we were actually setting our bar a little bit too high and our expectations a little bit too high against the qualification level, which is really impressive that our candidates are striving to be stretched and challenged. We just need to make sure that it's not going to place any future barriers when it's not necessary. Okay, so it's really impressive though, as we have all looked at what we would class as virtual assessment for the first time through, but coming out with no actions is amazing. So well done to everybody who's involved. In particular, shout for Priska for this one. So Priska's really stepped up into her lead role into functional skills and I'm sure you're all aware that she's there to support you to maintain standards if and when you need it. Okay, so looking at some more challenges of our 4Cs, looking at the comments being made by candidates on their assessment. Okay, so it may not seem to be an important part because you think, well, I'm giving feedback, I'm the assessor, I'm providing it to them, but it is a really pivotal role for the candidates to actually make a comment. The reason why is that it shows that the candidates received it. It's not just being done afterwards or as a secondary thought. It shows they've understood it, and then responding to that is actually a response to their assessment decision. So this would be their first informal point of call to challenge any decisions that we have, to make sure that they can put in either a remark, or they could be questioning areas of where they could develop further. This also provides evidence for our awarding organisations. They look at this. They want to know why it's not being completed if it's there. So every time there is a blank box, we have to explain a reason why. It finalises this part of the assessment. So it kind of wraps up. It almost does a 360 for the candidate and for the assessor to enable them to actually finish that point and then move forward from there with no questions. So candidate signatures, this is the second part that we're really struggling on, guys. It seems like a simple thing, but without a candidate signature, it isn't, they are not acknowledging their plagiarism disclaimer. So basically we are submitting evidence, assessing evidence, and then potentially passing it to awarding organisations. And as far as they're concerned, that could have been anybody's work. Okay, so we must have signatures on there to be able to prove that we've got a disclaimer. We also need to make sure that the candidate is acknowledging that they have been through assessment, they've received their assessment decision, and they've also received feedback. Okay, finalize, it authenticates their work, it authenticates the whole process, it puts their stamp as being part of what we do through our internal quality assurance. So if you could make sure that those are signed, that would be very helpful. Okay, the final one on the challenges then. So looking here at the assessment evidence. So this is whether it's accredited or non-accredited. Okay, we treat them exactly the same. It must be submitted within 5 working days of the end of the program. Now, I know there is some slight tweaks to that if you are doing a long course on 16 to 18s, for example, but even so, we must be now communicating with the quality department. It's imperative, guys, that you tell us if you've provided a extension, if you've provided a reset or a resubmission date, if you have I don't know, going to miss a deadline for some reason, or the deadline has been extended because of the learning needs to take place. You really do need to contact us and make us aware. If you don't do that, we are just running against the assessment plan, which then feeds into the IV plan. And if the IV is waiting there, then there is no work to do. Then that is literally an investment into something that is not being achieved. Okay. Please do not wait for the 1-3 of us, in particular Steve and Jenna, to try chasing down one of you guys. Okay, so what's on the horizon for the 3rd C for change? So we request to inform quality when the assessment is uploaded and ready for IV. So what we're asking now is for you to tell us, actively tell us rather than us chasing around everywhere, double checking every other day, and causing a lot of work for no reason. When that assessment is uploaded, it is ready for IV, let us know. Okay, if there is something missing, if there is something that is not what we would class as in place or accurate, let us know. Confirm what will be there and what won't be there. Okay, it's probably easy to tell us what won't be there. Okay, please also confirm where the submission can be found. So at the minute, we're going through a period of change, which we know, and we are transitioning onto 7 different platforms into Google Classroom. Okay, but if it is on Padlet, please just let us know. Don't assume that we are aware. If extensions are agreed, like we've previously told, please make sure you follow through the procedure when they submit their work. So if 2 people have got a submission later than the rest, you still need to follow process for submitting those 2 people. Any questions at all? As always, quality is here to check, challenge, change and champion. So we are here to support you underneath those 4 C's. Please direct any IV, any related questions, any support requests to this email address here, and that comes through centrally to quality@ssgservices.co.uk. So upcoming checks then. So the quality 4 C's, we're looking at staff feedback, use of staff feedback. This is an ongoing, it's a lot bigger task than I first thought it was. And it's also going to be a really good implementation into how we collate, what we do with that data and why we use it. We're now looking at and we are implementing the new teacher assessed grade guidance and process that will be coming out this week to you guys, and it will also include some CPD on that. So if you are involved with GCSEs and we are expecting SSG to provide the grade rather than them sitting their exam due to COVID restriction, the process is written, the policy is there. We have followed the JCQ, which is the Joint Council for Qualifications, all their guidance, and we'll be rolling out the information to you personally in a CPD session this week. Matrix standards then, guys. So it's that time of year again. I've set the standardized meeting, which is going to be on June the 18th. So as always, the amazing information, advice and guidance that you are providing each other and your candidates, I'll be asking you over the next few weeks about where is the evidence for that. Can you show off for me, please? Can you give me case studies? Can you provide me imagery, some data? And that will be coming out again over the next few weeks, drip fed in order for me to collate ready for our assessment meeting. So finally, let's finish off on learning walks. As always, we're into a new month. So in April, we are looking here at the teaching, learning, assessment. We always want to have a focus on TLL, but in particular, there is some bullet points that Jenna wanted me to share out with you guys. So how are we building learning within your sessions? And then from day to day and then into the weekly element of your planning, how are we building their learning? Or is it still one chunk and another chunk? Okay. Is it evident how one activity links to the next in order for this to happen? Okay. And that could be from one day to another. It could be at 3 different points in the same day. Same topic, just some more pointers here for you to read through. We need to make sure that we bridge learning, guys. So that may well be, what have they learned prior to SSG? Or it could be, what did they learn last lesson? And how is that then bridging today's content? And then how are we predicting and starting to bridge what is coming up in the future? Okay, and for those 3 phases, almost think around our own 3 eyes. Okay, so the intent is to fill the gaps which is missing or extend their prior learning. How are we going to do that in the here and now and implement it? And the impact is when we see you doing your assessment work or your distance learning work, we want you to be in a more progressed position for next time. Okay, as always, this is an open forum for you guys. Quality are here to support. So if you've got any questions, any queries, any comments at all, please feel free to direct them directly to me. Okay, my details are there. Alternatively, pick up the phone or Teams dial in. Thanks ever so much for your time.